Well, I made it. I got my favorites of last year video done before the Oscars. Just under the wire, too. Good lord. So just like last year, I'm not gonna name a favorite film or rank them in any kind of way. Just good old-fashioned alphabetical order, baby. Get it on! Bottoms. Easily my choice for the funniest film I saw last year. This dark high school comedy follows two lesbian outcasts who bumble their way into starting an after-school women's self-defense class. The mission is to get hot cheerleaders to join so they can get down and sweaty with them. I covered this movie when it came out, so go check out that review to learn more. Link is in the description. Godzilla -1. So if you're someone who's never seen a Godzilla film before and you're looking for the absolute best of what the franchise has to offer, I would say check this one out. It's the final days of World War II and kamikaze pilot Koichi has abandoned his duties. He returns to his bombed-out home city of Tokyo and is racked with shame and guilt for having committed cowardice during battle. He meets a woman named Noriko and an orphan child, and the three form a makeshift little family during the reconstruction. Meanwhile, Godzilla looms in the background, a freak product of the nuclear weapons used on Japan by the United States. It's actually a truly searing war film about loss and PTSD and how to move forward with your life in the ashes and rubble of your country, but with Godzilla also breathing down your neck. That's all I'm gonna say about it. It's just incredible. The Killer. Michael Fassbender plays an assassin on a mission in David Fincher's darkly comedic thriller. I covered it in more detail upon its release, and so yada yada yada, the link is in the description. Killers of the Flower Moon. Martin Scorsese's epic historical drama tells of a series of murders that occurred in the 1920s in Oklahoma. The Osage Nation became among the wealthiest people in America when oil was discovered on their land. Well, this brought in all the white folks who suddenly had an interest in marrying the Osage women. Among them is a dim-witted war veteran named Ernest, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who at the behest of his wealthy and powerful uncle is capable of doing some pretty awful things. His uncle, King Hale, played by Robert De Niro, is publicly an ally with the Osage people, but behind closed doors, he is the mastermind behind orchestrating their murders. Lily Gladstone also stars as Molly, who marries Ernest, and when several members of her own family are either disappeared or killed, she heads to Washington to seek some kind of help, and the Bureau of Investigation sends out some agents to do some sniffing around. Now, the film is, of course, expertly crafted, but man, 3.5 hours, Marty. But hey, I'm still glad that Marty's out there making the films he wants to make and that are as long as he damn well wants them to be. Good going, Marty! I do want to mention the passing of musician Robbie Robertson, to whom the film is dedicated. Robertson and Scorsese had been working together in some capacity ever since Scorsese's concert film The Last Waltz in 1978. This would be Robertson's last soundtrack score, capping off a truly incredible career in music. Nuclear Now. So right off the bat, I should disclose that I am a huge fan of Oliver Stone's entire body of work. Hell, my very first video that I did on this channel was for his film U-Turn. Go check it out! And I've really been digging this later period of his career as a documentarian. His limited docu-series, The Untold History of the United States from 2012, is arguably his greatest achievement. He later sat down for extended periods of time with Russian President Vladimir Putin, which resulted in the Putin Interviews series in 2017, and in 2021 he revisited his very controversial film JFK from 1991 and presented newly uncovered evidence and declassified documents in the new documentary JFK Through the Looking Glass. And now his most recent documentary is Nuclear Now, and I think that any and everybody should see this film. It very patiently lays out why nuclear energy has the bad reputation that it has, and then it goes on to debunk all the myths about it that have persisted for over half a century. And you know, I can speak for myself and say that my perception of nuclear power was shaped through the warped lens of popular culture my entire life, and I just never even bothered to dig a little deeper, dismissing it as a toxic punchline that creates three-eyed fish just like on The Simpsons. Shout out to my boy Blinky! I wouldn't even know where to start on the issue, but I do encourage anyone watching this to just look at the facts presented in this documentary and tell me that nuclear energy hasn't gotten the shit end of the stick for no reason whatsoever, besides some ridiculous misconceptions about it. Nuclear power does not equal nuclear bomb. Speaking of which, Oppenheimer. I must admit that when I heard Christopher Nolan made a 3-hour film about J. Robert Oppenheimer, the father of the atomic bomb, I was kinda meh on the whole idea. But in true Nolan fashion, he delivered what is just an extraordinary film. It clips by and jumps back and forth through time in a truly mesmerizing way, similar to his films Dunkirk and Inception. Cillian Murphy leads the impossibly stacked cast that also includes Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, Benny Safdie, Casey Affleck, and on and on and on. The film tells the story of the Manhattan Project during World War II, and in particular, Robert Oppenheimer's direction of the project, which led to the development of the first nuclear weapons. I will confess that the third act of the film is when it really started to feel its 3-hour running time. Nothing against the filmmaking or the actors, it just didn't have the kinetic push that the rest of the film had. Having said that, this whole affair could have been a dry, boring, preachy history lesson, but this flick just hums. It's a real testament to Nolan's skill in being able to make a 3-hour R-rated historical piece about the atomic bomb and still get asses in the theater seats to the tune of nearly $1 billion at the box office. Pretty remarkable. Good going, Chris. Poor Things. Over the past 10 years or so, Greek director Yorgos Lanthimos has emerged as one of the most unique and kooky filmmakers working today. Poor Things stars Emma Stone as Bella, who at the outset is a barking woman-child under the care of a prominent surgeon played by Willem Dafoe in a Victorian-era London. But it's a fantastical representation of the era with kind of a steampunk aesthetic to it. Without giving away too many details about why Bella is the way she is, I'll say that it's a Frankenstein kind of deal with Dafoe's character reanimating her to some degree. Bella's intelligence begins to swell exponentially and she soon grows curious about the outside world. Emma Stone is absolutely marvelous here, but the real scene-stealing performance of the film is Mark Ruffalo, who plays a suave, pompous buffoon who swoops in to take Bella out into the world, but soon realizes he's bought more than he bargained for with her shameless free spirit. And I have to give a shout out to the musical score by Jerskin Fendrix that's almost like another character in the film. It's one of the most unique and unusual scores I've heard in a while. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to name a definitive favorite of the year, but if you twisted my rubber arm, I think that Poor Things is probably what I'd pick.
And now it's time for some honorable mentions!
Alright, I'm just gonna rattle them off here. American Fiction, Arnold, Asteroid City, Blackberry, Chicken Run, Dawn of the Nugget, You're Darn Tootin', Cobweb, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, The Holdovers, John Wick Chapter 4, The Machine, Mr. Dress-Up, The Magic of Make-Believe, Silent Night, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Well, that about does it. Now I can get out of this itchy suit and throw it back in the closet till next year. Ugh. Anyways, I'm Eugene, and this was my film show, and stay tuned for my next episode. It's gonna be delicious.